there you go. There you go. Okay, cool.
Hi everyone. Today I've got Marc Gregory with me. Marc is the CEO and founder of Ollie Health, which provides remote teams with virtual therapy to lighten the load of life's complexities and what it places on our shoulders. Aside from being a brilliant entrepreneur and starting an exceptional business, Marc's also a great friend and a privilege to have him join us today. Marc, welcome to the pod.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. I'm just going to go through a couple of questions, and maybe a great place to start would be just to tell us a little bit more about Ollie's vision and mission and why you started it.
You know, I never want to give a scripted answer to what our vision and mission is because it kind of evolves over time. But I would say the way I think about it is I never understood what mental health was, right? Like I always worked in startups and it's fast paced. The expectation level is super high. And it definitely started to take its toll on me. I started suffering quite severely with panic attacks. I didn't understand what they were. I thought I was just having mild heart attacks or about to die. Because when you have a panic attack for the first time, it's a completely overwhelming experience. And it honestly feels like you are dying. And I think that it kind of forced me to take an exploration into what mental health means for me, what I can start doing to try optimize my mental health. And I never thought that I would start a company in the space, but you know, I guess over time, it's something I became super passionate about, and I needed that support when I didn't have it. I needed to have a therapist that I could speak to when I was going through these pressures that I didn't understand. And I think over time, I've just realized that it can become life's greatest superpower that no one really talks about. I think, you know, my goal is to give a remote therapist to everyone around the world, no matter where you're working, no matter what you do, you have access to that sounding board, that person that can support you and kind of help guide you through your career, guide you through the complexities of life. And I think it's important because mental health pressures, I think, are going to become the biggest problem that our generation faces. Is can we overcome, you know, social anxiety? How do we build better relationships in more of a digital remote world? I think these are serious, you know, mental health concerns that our generation faces that we need to try better understand. And I think over time, it's definitely been supporting, you know, remote workers and remote global teams with virtual therapy. And as the product evolves, I think we really want to create a new blueprint for mental health where you can have your Ollie mental health score, and that is alive. You can track that live over time. So you can see stress levels. Are you at risk of burning out? And really allow you to like understand your mental health better. Because I think once we can understand it better, we can kind of, you know, track that over time, and it'll start to become just as important as things that you can track, like your physical health. So I think creating that new blueprint is going to help create, I think, healthier habits around mental health.
Completely agree with you. And I think it's like, yeah, as what I appreciate most is just how open the discussion around mental health has become. And I guess like to a large extent, it was also like the big shift over to virtual work and the impact of in a sort of post-COVID world. But why would you say, Marc, is like, I guess there is still a little bit of apprehension, right, around approaching a therapist, and like people might be a little bit nervous to do so. In my case, like in the past, it was like the big obstacle and why I love Ollie so much and why it's benefited me so much is that it's so accessible, right? You typically have to break the bank. Insurance doesn't cover it. So it's like it's super affordable and like as I said, like I can log into Ollie, book a call with my credits, and yeah, that's the most amazing. But why would you say is like, aside from, do you think people still have that perception that it's like out of their means in terms of what they can afford? Why would you say like people still aren't adopting it as much as they should? Because in my mind, it is the most important dimension of well-being, your mental health?
I think we just need to be honest with ourselves in terms of who has had access to therapy. I always think of it like a luxury good, like a luxury product, where like maybe the top 1% of the world's population typically had access to a highly trained psychologist or therapist that they got referred to by someone else, and it's thousands of dollars over a couple months, and it's almost like this. And I think that's what has kind of created the mystery around what is therapy, how does it work, how long does it take, is it right for me? I think actually comes from that sense that just not a lot of people have been able, because of the price and the accessibility, have actually been able to experience it. So you're kind of starting from a point where you don't know what you're going to expect and you don't know if it's right for you. So, with what we're trying to do is like a simple step, a mental health quiz to get you to start thinking about your mental health. What is my current sleep patterns? Am I feeling more stressed? What am I looking to actually improve in my life? Because I don't think therapy should just be for when you're in a red zone of depression and burnout or trauma. I think it needs to become, what do I want to improve in my life? And where are my blind spots? I think that's been the biggest thing about therapy is you kind of doing a 360 degree on your life and kind of always looking at your blind spots and where you can improve. But you don't know that going into it. You don't know that, it's, and I guess it can be intimidating. Like you want to be on a virtual session with someone that you can trust, that you can relate to. Like we have this new therapist matching system, but we almost use like someone's perception of what the right vibe is for me as a data point, because yes, language, those specific things are important, but getting someone's energy is also important. Like, how is it going to look on the session? How is that person going to make me feel? That's like a really important metric that we look at, and we try and match you to that, because if it's going to be someone you're going to be vulnerable with on a virtual session, it needs to be someone that you get excited to have that call, because you kind of resonate with that person's energy, and their style of therapy, of course, is super important. So I think, like what we're trying to do with Ollie is you need to have that first session to really experience like the magic of that therapy support, right? But I guess it's also kind of just letting people know that you can try it without this massive commitment of paying hundreds of dollars or going through insurance or getting recommended by a doctor. It can be just like booking another meeting for work, except it's about you and it's for your mental health. Like it's just so crazy how easy we are to schedule another meeting on Calendly for another huddle or another internal or external meeting, but yet like we're so hesitant to give up at least half an hour just to have like a meeting where you're checking in with yourself. So I think that perception and behavior needs to change over time. Hopefully we can impact that.
For sure. I think that perception is like it changes when you look at therapy as a gift to yourself, and that like those Ollie Health sessions or the time you spend with the therapy, I always like to kind of refer to an invitation to a better version of yourself. And what I really appreciate is like that more and more people are shifting that perception around. Like typically, people have the attitude of if it's not broken, don't fix it. Whereas like to really understand yourself and to drive self-awareness, you do need someone to point out those blind spots at times. But what would you say, like?
And I think it's about starting.
Yeah, go for it. It's about starting.
Sorry, I think
it is about starting the conversation.
Yeah, and starting small, I think, is important. Like if you can, it's not a massive commitment. Like it's just, if you can start to understand yourself better, and the reason why you have certain thought patterns, start looking at things in your life that are impacting your mood and your relationships, and how, because you don't realize that those are like habits and patterns that you can actually break. But if you're not talking to someone about them, you're blind to it in a way. Like, it's maybe you kind of aware of it, but you're pushing it to the back of your mind. But there's like a weird thing that happens that when you say it out loud to someone, it kind of makes it a reality.
Yeah, for sure, that, and you have that sounding board to, and a professional sounding board at that, to like confirm those biases and like the negative stories you're telling yourself that aren't true, and also like some of the ones where you really are maybe fooling yourself a bit. Marc, typically speaking, obviously you guys like have a real dedication to the data and commitment to kind of understanding from your clients, what they really want to get out of therapy. What are you seeing in terms of like where most of the people are seeking help?
I think anxiety is the broad kind of search that we have on our platform, but then it starts to get more specific, around social anxiety, around isolation and loneliness. And I think it's all stemming from a more fundamental thing that's happening where, it's feeling kind of disconnected from like having a purpose or a community or having that support. I think people are just feeling increasingly more distracted and busy and frantic and less connected to like a community or a purpose. And I think remote work, it's two-folded, right? Like, you have the amazing flexibility to maybe spend more family time or to do something as simple as a 20-minute walk during the day. Like, that's a huge benefit to like your overall motivation and creativity towards your work. But at the same time, you can fall into patterns of like self-isolation. And I just think that like these are emerging sort of issues that we're seeing a lot of younger people specifically like have to deal with, where life has become almost like a massive paradox of choice. Like, there's more complexity that you have to navigate in modern day life, where I feel like 20-30 years ago there was sort of a path laid out. If you were lucky enough to go to a private school, then a private educational institution, you would go work at a bank or in finance, you'd get a stable job, you would have a family structure that's probably quite traditional. Now there's just infinite leverage thanks to the internet. Like, you can be a content creator, you can be a freelancer, a contractor, you can own your own business, you can own your own online store. And with that infinite choice of possibilities, almost becomes like a different kind of complexity to navigate. And that's why I feel like it's almost harder to try and figure out your purpose as a youngster these days. So, I think we're just seeing more of an increase in that kind of work/life purpose anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. I can really like speak to like the, it's a general angst amongst our generation around like, and it only gets aggravated, I suppose, with the introduction of things like ChatGPT, what we were referring to earlier, where yeah, you really don't know what your career is going to be looking like in 10 years. And yeah, it's obviously polar opposites to what the previous generation went through. So thanks for shedding light on that. I do want to be mindful of your time, Marc. At Zen Wellness, we obviously like a big pillar of what we're all about is community and supporting other companies in the health and wellness space. And like in South Africa specifically, there's so many budding and brilliant businesses with the mission of really uplifting the individual, and obviously by doing that you uplift the community because everyone's becoming the best version of themselves, really. But we'd love to hear from your side, if you could tell us a little bit more about what community means to you in the health and wellness space, and and what the Send partnership means to you.
Yeah, I really like the community focus of Send because it's something that I didn't realize was so important to your mental health when we started Ollie. The community element is almost just as, if not more important than the actual professional guidance that you're getting. Like in our group pod sessions, the fact that you are meeting and talking with and sharing with people that are, maybe they're also suffering with OCD or similar traumatic experiences that you've had. I really love the men's mental health sessions as well, because I just feel like, how often are a group of guys being vulnerable with each other, connecting in a way that doesn't involve, alcohol and these other kind of things that are destructive. So, I'm still learning the power of community. I think an important aspect of it is it has to feel authentic. The community can't feel like you have to be a certain way or it has to feel kind of too exclusive. I think if people are coming together with a genuine goal to try and enhance their mental health and try and enhance their career growth and their overall health, I guess, then I think that's a cool opportunity, because you get to meet like-minded people that are also focusing on those things as well, where, it might still feel like if you're deciding to focus on your mental health and you're doing things like meditation or therapy, or, you're not going out and drinking, you might actually feel isolated from society, because some people might look down on you for that because you're trying to better yourself, right? That's the kind of the irony as well.
Yeah, I guess it speaks to you want to generate self-awareness, self-improvement, be the best version of yourself, and in doing so you kind of, as you said, become a little bit too self-orientated. And yeah, that abundance mindset of helping others and realizing that so many more people are on the same mission as you, and you can help each other through accountability measures and really hear their stories and the ways they're doing it, goes a long way. But Marc, thank you so much for your time. Maybe a good ending point would be just to jot down where we can find a little bit more about Ollie Health on social or on the website in general.
Yeah, sure. So you can try out mental health credits at ollie.health, and yeah, you can give us a follow on LinkedIn if you're a company or team that's looking to support your staff as well. You can find us on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the time, Marc, and have a great day. I hope to have another conversation like this in the near future.
Definitely. Let's do it.
Ciao.